Hey guys, welcome to episode number 25 of the podcast. Today I'm doing something quite exciting. I've done this before, but I haven't done this in a while, so it's a little bit new and fresh. It's not just me talking, it's going to be someone else contributing to the show as well. That someone else is actually a client and friend of mine, Ollie Dunster. And I'm going to pass you over to him. He's going to introduce himself, tell his backstory, and we're just going to go with the flow on today's episode and kind of run through some of the stuff that I've been helping him with and some of the stuff he's been working on sort of outside of our conversations. And I guess the intention for today's episode is that, I don't know, if you're someone that's struggling, if you're someone that's sort of caught up in your head, if you're someone that's, I don't know, struggling with mental health and not really getting where you want to be getting to in life, and hopefully there's some inspiration in this episode. So over to Ollie. I'll let him sort of introduce himself, and we'll go from there.
Hey guys, so yeah, I'm Ollie, as Chris said. Been working with Chris over a year now, and I guess during lockdown, I was really focusing on my career, really kind of pushing myself to new levels, which is amazing. But at the same time, I kind of felt something was missing. And I guess during lockdown was hard for everyone, mentally, physically. And so a bit about my background, I play guitar, play drums, teaching two schools and playing 3 bands. So I love my life, I love my career, good social life, good family, feel very grateful for that. However, like I said, during lockdown, I felt a bit of me was missing. And it kind of came to realization when I came back from a holiday in Malaga last year, where I just felt so in my own head. I wasn't present. I wasn't enjoying the holiday. I was on the beach in sunshine. Life on paper was great on the outside, but something internally was not kind of feeling right, and I just couldn't understand it. Couldn't put thought about it. So I kind of thought, well, let's try something a bit different out of my comfort zone. I kind of looked into therapy first of all, which was a good start, and then I managed to find Chris. At that start, I must admit, I was quite apprehensive. I was kind of not really sure what this was. It was completely new to me. I think a lot of men, especially in England, we don't really like talking about emotions or how we're actually feeling. And it's become worse and worse in the last kind of 2-3 years, especially during lockdown, and feeling more alone than ever. So that was a big turning point for me. It was good to be out of my comfort zone, and didn't realize how much kind of conditioning I had from the past that was subconsciously still in my head, that just kind of I learned to deal with and just kind of get on with. And I kind of thought that was what life was. It was just you got this thing in the past and that was it. You couldn't get past it. However, by joining the group calls and starting to kind of work through it very, very slowly, obviously, changing habits, and 4 habits take a long, long time. But I've come a long, long way since then, appreciating life more, being more in the present moment. And I can't recommend it enough.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, a subtle pitch there. Didn't ask you to do that, by the way. No, it's really cool because, again, a lot of the reason why I think we spoke about it on the last conversation, that just it'd be really cool to do a podcast and talk about your experience, because I can talk about my experience and I do talk about my experience, but my experience is just my experience. And I think it's really cool when someone like yourself has gone through this transformation where you've gone from where you were, which I know was quite a dark place for you. And like you said, it's not something people talk about really. I think the typical thing is you just kind of get on with it and you keep trudging through it, and you don't talk about it because it's not common to talk about it. You sort of push it further underneath. And I think what was interesting for you as well is your life was already moving forwards. It was like on the outside looking in, everything looked great. People are sort of saying, oh, wow, you're in a band, you're doing this, you're teaching, you've got this fulfilling career, you're traveling here, there and everywhere. But you were like, yeah, but I don't really feel that. So yeah, what's going on? But I'm curious as well for you, but like, what was the point at which you thought, I need to do something about this? Like, I have to do something about this.
I think it was, so the end of 2021 was like my kind of breakthrough with getting these jobs in schools that I wanted to. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. And I was like, well, what's next? And I think I went into 2022 a bit like everything I achieved was great, but then I was kind of like, that was everything I was focusing on nothing else. So kind of I almost collapsed a little bit in the new year. And like I said, when I came back from Malaga in February, I was like, something doesn't feel right. I'm not enjoying, like I always keep trying to go on holidays to try and maybe escape reality a little bit and just keep going away. But it's kind of like putting a plaster on a massive wound. It's not helping it. It's just kind of, prolonging the pain, I suppose. So I came back from holiday then and had a really, really long think about what was up, and I couldn't really formulate the thoughts in my head. It was just all like a jumble and all scattered. And I was like, well, let's try and get external help, see if I can try and do that in different ways. And so I guess it was February last year.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. What was the point, like what you mentioned there about like getting external help? Because I think that's something especially men find really difficult, because we kind of just get on with it ourselves and hope that we can find a solution. But one thing I've always found quite interesting with this kind of stuff is whether you're facing challenges or you're looking to sort of grow to the next level, it's very difficult to sort of see your own limitations because you're sort of contending with them on a daily basis. But what was it that made you think, right, I need someone else to sort of speak to about this? Because let's be honest, that's something that men struggle with, to actually put words to their experience.
I think it was the fact that I kept saying to myself that I'll be fine and that my background doesn't add up to why I'm feeling like this, apart from obviously what I've been in school. Like, good parents, good supportive family, good friends, good career. Like there's no factors that I could think of that would make sense to this. So I guess I pushed off for a while, but then it's only so long you get to when you think, right, there's got to be some change. I was constantly trying to be busy, constantly trying to just fill up my time every second of every day, being productive, but in reality, just not trying to face what's going on in my head. And I think a lot of people probably felt the same during lockdown, because suddenly we normalised being really busy in England. Like it's like we've talked about this before, where we just assume that it's good to be constantly productive and you must work harder and harder and be the best at what you can do without kind of putting your mental health first. I think probably during lockdown, a lot of people had a lot of time to reflect, and that's quite scary, especially for men. That's
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. When you like, obviously how you were feeling before, how would you describe that to someone? Like, looking back now, what was the sort of day-to-day experience that you found yourself living? I know you were doing stuff, you were doing a lot, busy, but what did it feel like?
I guess fragile. Slightly, like the emotions were quite unstable. I'd be like chasing the highs or the lows. Well, not chasing the lows, but like there was a lot of big tipping point between some days feeling really, really high and really, really happy and great, confident, and then the lows would come really badly as well. And there was no like middle ground where there was no pattern that I couldn't predict it for some things. Like example, in Malaga, I was feeling awful. You'd think you could try and predict being on a holiday in the sunshine that you'd feel good, but that's not, that's not how it works.
Yeah. And when you experienced, obviously, I think when everyone's experiencing the highs of life, you don't really think about it too much. You're just kind of in that flow and you're enjoying things. But when you obviously experience the lows, did you accept those lows, or did you sort of try and battle them, question them, analyze them?
I had a big period where anything that low happened, it would kind of be like a feeling of I've taken steps back, or I wouldn't see the external factors that could cause it. I'd just see it as a problem with me, which is not a very nice way to think. So, let's say, for example, I had a weekend of heavy drinking and then get to Wednesday next week and I had some negative thoughts, and I was like, well, I would used to think, there's something wrong with this week. I didn't take into consideration the fact that I've just drunk quite a lot, or had restless, not much sleep for the last few days, and I'm not 19 anymore. So the repercussions of that do affect you for days after. So I had to change that mindset of like stopping ridiculous amount of pressure on myself and kind of accept being a human, I suppose. I was trying to be perfect at everything and just keep, powering through.
Yeah.
Which we don't have to do.
No, I agree. I totally relate with you around that, like, because I had a similar experience, and I think that's why we connected. My experience was very much chasing the highs, trying to run away from the lows, not embracing the lows. It was almost like the darkness was chasing me and I was running away from it all the time. And it was like I never allowed it in because I was so afraid of it, because I made it into this big bad kind of thing that we shouldn't be feeling. I shouldn't be feeling. Why is this here? Like, because if I look at my life, everything's okay. So why am I feeling these emotions? But for me, one of the most powerful things was understanding that, the highs and the lows are part of life. It's just part of being a human being. If you're going to go up, you've got to come down at some point. That's just true. That's what holiday blues are, But obviously, if you accept and allow the highs and you enjoy those, but then don't accept and allow the lows, it's kind of like, it's the same as saying, do you know what? I love spring and summer, but I hate autumn and winter. But spring and summer is created through autumn and winter. It's kind of like a oneness, and it's sort of...
To appreciate one, you have to have the other.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's something that obviously we've worked on a lot over the last year with you, but like, it's easy to say, just appreciate the lows but what impact has that had for you to be able to sort of allow that and to, I don't know, have a bit of distance from that emotion rather than getting caught up in it and, oh my God, this is a problem and why am I feeling like this and blah, 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 blah. Instead, I think you're able to sort of step back from it and just be like, yeah, cool, feel low. That's okay. Could be because I've been out drinking all weekend. Cool, makes sense, I
think, one thing to say before, like, obviously the lows are still there. Like, it's not like I've just got no lows anymore. Like I said, they're part of life, but when they do come, they are normally, there's less of them, during the week. And when they are there, I can sit with them more and kind of understand them a bit more. But basically, there's more understanding behind them and to not beat myself up. So if I am feeling low, just to, is it worth my time to invest into thinking about it more? Or is it just something that is an outside factor that will, a good night's sleep, water, diet, gym again, it's the simple things that can make such a difference. And that's kind of the way I kind of see these things now. And it's good, the training I've kind of worked on, it's there when I need it, which is great.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. And sort of, like you mentioned there, I think that's quite cool because I've heard a lot of people say that before. And I would say the same with my experience. I would say that maybe like 70% of my life was kind of in the lows, 30% was in the highs before. And then obviously when I've learned more about my brain and my thoughts, my emotions, and sort of learnt the tools that I teach to sort of manage those things and to understand them, it's almost like it flips. Like I probably feel 30% low and 70% not buzzing, not running around excited, jumping up and down, screaming, wow, how wonderful is life, but just grounded, just good, just pretty good. Almost actually, I would say maybe like 20% low. I would say 60% good and grounded and quite in between, but on the slight joyous side, like joy. Joy to me isn't excitement. Joy to me isn't, like I said, running around clipping my heels at the magic and miraculous nature of life. But I might spend 10, 20% in that space. Whereas before it was 70% low mood, tired, fatigued, not really understanding what was going on. And then the 30%, maybe 20% of the highs and 10% of that okayness. There was very little okayness in my life, like a very small sliver of it, whereas the okayness is expanded now. I don't know, I'm just kind of elaborating on that, but would you sort of agree with that? Would you sort of, what's your experience based on that?
Yeah, I think I still sort of struggle with the mundane, like the normal, like during the weeks kind of thing when there's not too much going on. It's which is really good for rest and it's good for your mind to kind of wander. But that's something I'm still working on. We've all got things to work on, and it's kind of not having to be out every night. Not having to be gigging all the time, and kind of keeping weekends free is quite unusual to me. So but yeah, I think it's like you said, it's more about that kind of. I think the modern world, we see so much on Instagram and Facebook, and you see people's, they're like super highs, but you're seeing like one picture, one video of like a small clip. You're not seeing difficulty in their actual life, because why would someone post that online? It wouldn't make any sense. So
Yeah.
I think we're kind of trained nowadays to kind of, and again, advertising as well, we're chasing to look for these highs and just constantly live in that kind of mindset and everything to be comfortable. But that's not the reality of life. And the faster you accept that, the faster you can see things in a different perspective and just generally be more present, enjoy life more.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So like, how is life for you now? I know you've just mentioned the lows still exist and you're still obviously on the journey. So am I. I think we all are. I think we always will be. There's always going to be something to look at because our lives change so dramatically as well. So there's always something to look at. But yeah, like compared to before, how are you feeling the majority of the time now? What's changed?
Good. It's funny because not really much has changed externally. I'm still like in the same jobs. I've got some new ideas this year I'm working towards, but I'm not. A year ago, my brain was like, I'm not as productive now, but I probably am doing more with less time, if that makes sense. And like I said, it's just the internal world's just completely shifted, and that's just with everything in life. It's a perspective. You can see things in two ways in the day. You know, the classic is the cup half full, half empty analogy. It's like I said, I still have my lows. I'm still human. Still make mistakes. If I drink too much or I'm too tired, obviously it's going to affect me. You know, still get anxious at times. It's natural, but there's not as much analyzing of it. I'm not kind of thinking, oh, it must be because of that. It's more like, okay, cool. I'm feeling that today. It is what it is. Let's crack on with the day. And I'm just slowly, I'm not there yet, but I'm just slowly feeling my emotions again. I'm slowly kind of immersing myself in the world of music again and enjoying playing in the bands again and loving writing music, and all that's come from just taking the pressure off, thinking there's a massive pressure. I must be doing this much every day. And it's just not possible every day. It's just not. So it's, yeah, very proud of where I've kind of worked for this. And as I said to anyone out there, it's not easy to work for things. Everyone's got demons. We all do. It depends what you're willing to put into yourself, invest in yourself, which is at the end of the day worth more than anything in the world, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. I love what you said there as well, because I've, you know, for me, I've described it as your situation. It's not like you know, it's like you said, your lifestyle hasn't changed too much. It's actually very similar, but what has changed is your inner kind of world, you know. And it's like there's a phrase I really like. It's like everything changes, but nothing changes. Everything's different, but nothing's different. You know, in Thailand, what is it? Same, but different. It's kind of, it's the same, but it's different because the way in which you're seeing your world, the way in which you're experiencing the same world has shifted. And that's what the internal world's all about. And that's why it's a little bit of a woo-woo subject for a lot of people, because they're like, I can't point to this. I can't see it. I can't see my thoughts. I can't see my emotions. Where are they? Well, they're here because we experience them. And that's why it's so difficult to put words on this kind of work and this experience. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's why people find it so challenging. Like I even had a call yesterday with a client and just going through a bit of pain at the moment. And I sort of said to her, you know, how much pressure are you putting on this pain? And I think you'll relate to this as well, Ollie, but how much pressure are you putting on this mental pain? And she's like, a lot. It's annoying. It's frustrating. You know, I'm trying to get away from it. I'm almost at battle with myself. Now, how many people listening to this podcast right now experience a battle with themselves on a daily basis? I do still, not as badly as I used to, but I think we all do, right? But if you come to the physical world and like, if you imagine you've got a bad leg, for example, like you literally can't walk on one leg, do you try and go to the gym and lift weights on that leg? No, you don't. You rest it. Why? Because you can see and you can feel in your physical experience that this is limiting you. So you just rest it because that's kind of very normal. But we don't apply the same thinking to our mind and our emotional state because it's intangible. We can't see it. We can't point to it. It's hard to put words to. And I think that's kind of where we're at these days. You know, it's like, why are we not treating our mind and our body the same, or our body and our mind the same? Because they work in the same way. You give something space, you rest, you relax, you sit back, and you allow it to heal itself. You know.
No, I agree. Yeah, I think nowadays we're probably less and less in tune of our minds as well because of how busy life is, and social media, like, and online presence sucks up that time you have to think and to be
Yeah.
bored, I suppose, to kind of let your mind wander.
Mm. Mm. Very interesting. Yeah. But for you, like, if you had a message for someone listening to this, like, let's say, for example, it's Ollie from a year ago, 2 years ago, or someone in your situation, it doesn't have to be exactly you, but what would the message be? Like, what would you say to someone now? I'm not saying you're completely on the other side, but now you're the other side of where you were. What would you say to someone?
If there's a continuous theme, something that you're not happy with, like, beating yourself up for being, hard on yourself, not being and not seeing yourself in a good light, whatever it is. Like I said, everyone's got demons. It's worth investing the time in yourself to look into it, because all you're going to do is snowball the effect. It's never going to go if it's continuously there. Now, if it's something from childhood or something you picked up in adult life, it's fine to, like, accept you're not okay right now, and that's a really brave thing to do. It's really powerful, really hard to do. I struggled with it first, and to accept that you're not okay is one of the hardest things I've ever done, to be honest. But with anything in life, anything worth doing is hard. There's no doubt about that. So investing your own time and making yourself happier can lead to so much different joys of life, whether that's career based or just family or being focused with friends. It makes such a difference. So I'd highly recommend it to anyone.
Yeah.
As well as that, listen to podcasts, get into that mindset, find the growth mindset podcast, and start with that. Don't become too obsessed though, because that's what I did at one point. You have to get that balance.
Yeah. So, like, again, you just touched on podcasts and stuff like that. And again, I could give my opinion here, but I want to get yours. But, like, what does that look like? Say someone's listening to this and they're thinking, all right, Ollie, yeah, I get that. Like, invest in myself or do whatever. What does that actually look like if you broke that down?
Oh, good question. I mean, if you enjoy this podcast, I'm not trying to say your pitch again, but listen to some of the other podcasts that Chris has. They're like 20 minutes long, quite short, so you can fit them in your day to have a quick listen. And then from there, type in Growth Mindset podcast, see what it's about. There's hundreds on Spotify, and have a listen to them. But don't go in the mindset that there's something wrong with you and that everything they say is gospel, because that's not always true. You take the bits out that are good for you, and it doesn't mean you don't have to kind of agree with it. You just have to. It's good to get that mindset of listening to those kind of things. I suppose as well, it's the classic old-fashioned concept: diet, exercise, sleep, water. They go about saying, if you're not looking after your diet, it's obviously going to affect your mind, and if you're not doing exercise, then you're not going to feel as good. And I found, I guess, journaling as well. Last year, I found it quite good. I haven't been doing so much recently, but journaling and meditation, it feels quite weird at first because if you haven't done it before, then it's obviously a new skill. And not saying you have to do a lot every day, but if you can even try 3-5 minutes meditation every day or every other day, it can make such a difference. But also be patient, because changing anything takes, minimum 3 months, if not more. And obviously, if you go to the gym, you see things after 3 months physically, but mentally, it can take a lot longer to actually see the things. And obviously, no one else can but you, really.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. It's interesting you say that as well, about just because I know one thing that you were kind of like, I wouldn't say you were patient, but it was kind of like, I think you thought maybe it was going to happen faster as well, right? Like, or you kind of step back a couple of weeks and then you go, oh my God, I've gone backwards. That's it. It's game over. I'm back to square one again, which is the interesting thing with your mental experience, right? Because, like, you're one day away from feeling like crap again, but you're also one day away from feeling really good again. Can you just share your experience on that, just for some, because I know that people do fluctuate and they go up and down. It's almost like the same as going to the gym, losing weight, and then you get on the scales and you see the weight's gone back up again and you feel like you want to give up, and that's it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm trying to think. I guess, yeah, first of all, when I started this, I had this underlining, like, feeling, which I think a lot of people do, that's I'm broken. That's never going to change. And like, that's such a negative mindset. I was like, oh, hopefully if I ever have kids or whatever, that they won't get the same things I had in school. And that's just me where I am. But obviously that's completely not true. Now, in terms of, taking steps back, I've had some big fluctuations over the last year and a half. And a lot of it was down to, for me personally, was my like busyness. You know, I was refusing to give up the busyness to kind of have more time to, help myself. So then I kind of came to a point where I thought, oh, I feel fine again now. Let's stop meditation. Let's, let's drink more again, and let's show the world the new Ollie. And then obviously by doing that, I just took a step back. Now, at the time, I felt like it's got the same, if not worse, than where I started, and it was so frustrating. But that mindset, that the snowball effect again, that obviously isn't true. The steps you take forward, when you take a step back, it's just you're seeing it from a different perspective because you've been feeling better recently. But you got to keep reminding yourself there's these hurdles that you have to keep going over and taking a step back. It's all, at the end of the day, making you stronger. It's all about that growth. That's what it is. So you learn after time to kind of embrace the setbacks a little bit, because that's kind of part of life. You can't just be constantly in the top lane. It's not how life works. But the more mature you get with this, the stuff I've learned anyway, is that the setbacks, that's when you learn the most growth about what to do next time and what to change. And then if you keep having the same setbacks, then there's always a pattern. If I drink every weekend, I know I'm going to have a pattern of not being my best self the week after, and I have to accept that. But coming to terms with it can make it more powerful by owning it, I suppose, as well.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, cool. All right, we'll slowly start to wrap this episode up. But another question for you: would you recommend coaching? And like, what is your kind of, how would you describe it to someone? Because I know at the beginning to you it was like this unknown, and that's why I'm kind of asking you this question. Again, not necessarily selling myself, but just to kind of describe what is coaching. What did you get from it, and like, what did you get from working with me and being involved in the group as well?
I think both coaching and therapy has been really, really useful. Like I said before, it's helped me see things in a different way. And I think, having a group call is obviously quite scary, but it gets you in a situation where you're talking about things that they should talk about in school. They don't do. It's not brought up enough in society, which is a shame. But kind of factors of appreciation, for example, active appreciation, how to be okay with not feeling okay, and things like that. So for me, coaching is just, obviously when we first started, there was no emotional connection, which makes it a little bit easier, I think, because obviously you talk to your friends, but it's not always easy, because obviously you know them well. But when you know someone, you don't know someone at all, it's a complete stranger, there's not really anything to lose. You really just got to go in and just be yourself. And yes, it is scary, of course it is, but coaching can help in any different way of life, whether you want to focus more, like I said, career or relationships or health, or anything which something doesn't feel quite right, and you're willing to put the work in, like you with the gym. A lot of people go to the gym nowadays. You're willing to get the strength or look slimmer or get more muscle. It's the same with your brain, and you could argue that's in some ways more important, because that's kind of everything, the way you perceive everything in life.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. So to someone that is like thinking about it, what would you say to them?
What have you got to lose? It's, investing in your time, and the worst thing you do is it doesn't lead to anything, it doesn't help you. But then why would you start the gym, for example, the first time? Were you scared then? Yes. Why would you start a new job the first time? Were you scared then? Yes. There's not really anything else to say, really. I mean, if you feel something's not right, how long do you want to keep trying to kid yourself that it's okay, and do you want to get the help?
Yeah, that's cool. Awesome. Yeah. Okay, cool. I kind of want to wrap it up with something for someone to take away. But what would you say, what's been your biggest takeaway over the last year? biggest thing you've taken, not just from working with me, but the therapy as well, but the biggest thing that you think has made the biggest difference for you?
Whatever's affecting you now, the more strain you put on it, you won't care in 2, 3 years time. You won't. You think of COVID. Do we talk about it anymore? It was the biggest part of our lives for so many years and caused so much mental health issues, financial strain. But I don't even know. No one talks about COVID anymore at all. So don't beat yourself up too much. Genuinely try and be on your side, because there's people out there who will be against you always. So the worst thing you can do is let that eat you up, and be excited about being in the unknown. It's scary to kind of figure yourself out more, but for me, it's been one of the best things I've ever done.
Yeah, cool, awesome. And what's next for you then? What's the next step?
Yeah, figuring out my emotions more, kind of getting back in, like, without thinking about it, so before thinking, kind of just being more naturally in the present moment. I think I've got a good, healthy relationship now with my work again. I'm enjoying it more without the pressure. I feel like I'm teaching better, enjoying the summer holidays. I'm off now for 6 weeks. And yeah, be more present, better relationships. I've been starting to date someone recently, which is going really well so far. So just taking things on my stride and just being proud of who I am, and just trying to live my wholesome life that I try and obey by, really.
Yeah, love that. Would you say you're feeling more like yourself these days?
Yeah, I feel more. I got more older now than I was before, but I'm feeling more mature, I'm more in control of the emotional capacity. There's less of a tipping scale. It's just, being more accepting of myself. That's the biggest thing, and that's not been easy for me. I've had to work through like a lot of conditioning, a hell of a lot. But like I said, anything worth doing in this world is hard, and I kind of really believe that mindset in every way in life, and relationships and friendships and your family and with your job. It's the only reason why I'm getting my success is because I'm putting the hours in, and I enjoy the hard work, and it's really, really important to do, I think.
Yeah, I love that. No, I really appreciate you you actually jumping on this episode, because I feel like, again, I talk about it all day long. It's what I do. It's what I kind of live and breathe, really. But I really appreciate just your vulnerability and your ability to just talk about it and share it and just not care, because you've been through this journey. You've been like in the darkness. You've experienced the other side. Not to say that obviously there is still darkness at times, of course, that's just part of life. But I think it would be very, very useful for, I don't know, anyone that's in that place now to just listen to it. I think it's just a very useful episode for anyone to listen to, really, because it's either confirming their own experience and their own journey and where they've come to in their life. And it feels good when we hear other people talk about this stuff, because it's like, that's how I feel, or that's how I felt, and I feel like this now. So it's that kind of, I don't know, it just makes you feel less alone, I guess, in some ways, which, again, is a lot of the reason why I started the mastermind, because I've been doing one-to-one coaching for a long time with people, and it was still a very isolated experience. People felt a connection to me because I was very open and honest about my experience, and that was powerful. But then it got to a point where I was like, actually, do you know what? So many of my clients, so many of these people could benefit from being around more people like themselves. And it's not, sat around a table crying and in tears. It's just talking about life. It's talking about challenges. It's talking about dreams. It's talking about aspirations. It's not just about the darkness, but it's being inspired by people, as well. Like Ollie mentioned, sorry, go on.
I was just about to say, like, reflecting on that, the people you see who are the most confident are the ones who are happy with themselves. That is confidence. It's not telling people that you're confident, and it's the aura you have and the kindness to yourself and others, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and there's something about being around people that are on this journey to being better. There is something about that, because not only do you have people that are ahead of you, not in success, we're not talking about that, but in terms of their, like you said, Ollie, their confidence, their grounding, their authenticity, the way they operate in the world. It's inspiring. It's kind of contagious, You want to be around it. You feel the energy, and you're like, wow, that's kind of where I can get to, you know. But then it's equally as powerful when you get people that you see that maybe are a few steps behind you, because then that kind of opens up this path of, oh my God, I used to be there. Wow, I used to struggle with that. Oh my God, I can't believe I don't struggle with those thoughts or those emotions anymore. And you can also step in and help and assist and guide, which is another, I think it's just something we're designed to do as humans. I think we're designed to have someone aspirational. And I think like what we spoke about at the beginning of this podcast about, we're always looking at the surface. We're looking at success, money and stuff like that. Great, amazing. Of course, it's cool. It's fun. We can head in that direction. But I think we need to be looking at other areas of life too. You know, how happy is this human being? How well balanced is this human being? You know, are they enjoying their experience of life? I think these things are things to look towards a lot more, especially now as things are evolving. Yeah.
I guess the last thing to say, the biggest thing is like, ask your question to yourself, are you on your side? Because I think most people would say no or not know the answer.
Yeah. Yeah. That's powerful. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Anything else to add, or should we wrap it up there?
No, that's good. My brain hurts now, so off to the gym. Gym ahead.
I was getting to the point. I'm looking at the time, thinking, "Yep, I'm done now." But I'm glad you are too. So, but anyway, no, I really appreciate you coming on.
No worries at all.
It's been a very powerful conversation.
Good to be vulnerable. You know, I'm doing it too.
Yeah, for sure. And just hopefully, you know, there's at least one insight from this podcast for someone. That would be very cool, even if just you got one takeaway from it. But I'd love to hear your comments. Like, feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to follow Ollie as well on social media, and follow his journey. And yeah, I guess we'll see you on the next one. I am going to be posting some more bits and pieces about the next event that's coming up in September, and a few other things. So if you want to keep up to date with that, then continue to listen to these episodes, and also just head over to my Facebook and Instagram, where I'll be sharing more stuff. But yeah, appreciate your time. I appreciate you listening for this 37-minute waffle and ramble. And I'll see you on the next episode. Take care.